Classic. 4.9. Very nice. Yep. Wow, beautiful. New garden. Modern garden. Over there. Yeah. He's over there. Patty's over there. Right here. Yeah, Patty's there.
Sacrifice of Miguel Grau, national hero of the Soul 35, and represents the judicial power of the Peruvian federal state. It's an operational courthouse, the Supreme Courthouse of the And at the end of the street, before us, is the French Palace.
1985.
French Palace is the first condominium of Lima.
几十年而已，
It was
新的
inaugurated
建
in
筑，
1924
不是古老
and
的。
was one of the first
这是什
projects
么
of
？First apartment
housing
house.
for the newly emerged middle class population.
这也很新啊。
French Palace, sadly, has been neglected and abandoned
哎，怎
for
么那么
quite a
那
long
个好
time.
像在 auction 啊？
And it's not the only
在卖啊。
one building at the city center under the same circumstances. Remember I told you there was a national crisis that started in 1968 with the military coup, and then the industrial collapse, and the crisis that followed. So when the rich people that got expropriated by the military regime stopped receiving money from the government because there was industrial collapse, and eventually the federal government filed international bankruptcy, they couldn't afford any longer maintenance nor taxation of their property. And without money, after some
这
time,
人好奇
they
怪，
were forced due to circumstances
它很奇
to
怪，
abandon
那
these
不挺好
mansions.
看的。
穿上面穿那样，还下面穿那样，
They started to squatter
是有一点
the
怪怪的
area
地方。
nearby Lima.
我们在 Lima 的 local tour，Lima 的 local tour。今天是礼拜天。
Friends, welcome to the San Martin Square. This is where the Peruvian oligarchs and international guests celebrated the centennial of independence from Spain, named after the liberator of Peru, José de San Martin, who proclaimed the independence from Spain in July 28, 1821. 4 times one day, because there was no social media, no Instagram or Twitter. He had to go to where the people congregated, and those were public squares like this, like the main square, Saint Anne's Square, the square of Our Lady of Mercy, and the Inquisition Square. 4 times within the city center. Most of the buildings around correspond to different decades. Some of them from before the celebration of Centennial. Those buildings over there, for example. There's one that sadly got severely damaged by a fire in October 2018, the Giacoletti Palace. Residents of 2 Italian families, the Romano and the Giacoletti. The building is part of the city center heritage program site, so will not be demolished, will be restored. But it's going to take a long, expensive bureaucratic process. the project of restoration has been recently approved. But the most difficult part starts now, which is the fundraiser. Next to it, we have the Christopher Columbus Theater, the one with the saying Colón atop. Yeah, Colón is Spanish for Columbus. Cristobal Colón
Christopher Columbus.
is the name in Italian or Spanish. Yeah, translated to English as Christopher Columbus. It's a theater. The theater has been fully restored in 2022, but so far it's closed.
2022.
Even though it has been restored almost 2.5 years ago, there is no official statement by the city about what the project for this building will be. So it's closed.
Closed.
These two buildings are from the early
Designated as a
1910s.
theater.
1912, the Giacoletti Palace, and 1914, the Christopher Columbus Theater. Then we have the two buildings at the extremes. The one on the right is the Grand Hotel Simon Bolivar, named after the other liberator of South America, Simon Bolivar, liberator of Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador.
Liberated.
This is a hotel which was inaugurated in 1924. And the other extreme on the left-hand side, next to the Christopher Columbus Theater, is the headquarters of the first social business club of Peru, an institution established in 1855, although the building was inaugurated in 1929. Oligarch men only had been members of this exclusive, elitist social business club, the National Club of Peru. And then we have the white buildings around from the 1930s, 40s, all of them condominiums and office buildings with various commerce at the first floor and basements. So that's about these buildings, about the history of this place. At the center of the square is the sculpture that honors the legacy to which was
San Martin.
by a Spanish artist named Mariano de Chile. It has a series of different allegories. First, the top is the liberator. The front part, we can see a woman holding a lamp, a sign that states the nation to the general José de San Martin. The Peruvian nation, the Peruvian nation. That woman is Lady Lima. And in the back, there are two swords. San Martin was not born in this territory, born in the Argentina. And those two soldiers are one from Argentina, the other one from Chile. Still a family. The allegory of the Protestant and our nation. That's about this country. We have and then to the main school.
I will also stop us in the taxi in the street, but it's not safe. Better from that.
On some instant noodles.
There you go.
Another characteristic that we can see of the building is the balcony. The balcony is original from North Africa, from Morocco, for example.
Morocco. And
Muslims
balcony.
from North Africa conquest and ruled a great part of the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal and Spain, for over 7 centuries. This is a long period of time throughout the Spaniards and Portuguese embraced a lot of Moorish influence that was adapted to the old cultural ways and then taken from the Iberian Peninsula to the new colonies in America. So they deployed these structural features that over time, at least in Lima, became status symbols.
I see.
The rich people of Lima built up these beautiful structures on the facade of their mansions for decoration, but over time, people started competing to build the largest, the more ornate, or hiring the most expensive.
Damn, I got you.
Oh my God. He just wants to be in your movie.
Yes, he's a movie star now.
Yeah.
You're a movie star too.
Yeah.
Hey, good. Let me just angle.
You gotta take a view of yourself too.
I know. 我做什么？
全台湾第一巴士。
This is Washington.
How are you? Really? We are residents of a rich family. Sorry? No, I told people it's a restaurant, second floor, different business.
Okay, walk. Green light.
Parece que dice que tiene un cafecito o la entrada a la entrada para que hagan contacto con
That's so different.
Okay.
You just, oh, you want me to
What's this building? 这栋是什么 ？Lamp. Lamp. 这栋是什么？
Bien.
They are supervising this station in intersection.
Poco a poco me has querido, poco a poco me asoma, y al final todo va a cambiar, morenito de mi amor. Tú salidas cielo, salidas cielo, somos superamos, somos superamos, nos queremos.
¿Qué realmente se grabó en su celular, por favor? A veces una falta de respeto desconcentra. Tienen que guardar sus celulares, señora. A mí los años no son virtuales, sino saben las causas. No es un capricho de los sacerdotes, sino un decreto de la autoridad.
有了。我从 Cuzco 之后才不知道我这是I want to eat there.
Whoa! 这个是cathedral。
We will be back here, catch your group up.
Huh?
We'll return here, catch your
Oh,
group
we'll return.
up.
Oh, okay.
All
Okay.
the way in front. This is not the facade. The facade's nice.
Not the facade, huh? Okay, good. Good to know.
Tiene que cumplir, pero de todas maneras, como digo,
Mirando por orden, se le dio los espacios más cerca a la plaza. De hecho, los primeros fueron los dominicos, está solo a una cuadra de la plaza
Cheers.
mayor.
Watch out for the car
Estamos
behind
a
you.
una, dos cuadras. Aquí fueron los...
La directriz salió en la televisión.
Okay, meine Damen und Herren, warum stellen wir hier im Schatten? Wir gehen jetzt gleich rein in das Kloster, aber vor
Hey, 转头转头，喂 ，Patty，Cindy，转头。
Schauen Sie mal hier die Fassade Der Kirche aus Granit. Das kam aus Nicaragua, Zentralamerika. Granit hat man hier mit alten Schiffen als Ballast. Die Schiffe, die kamen nachher. Portugal und die sind dann später nicht vorgeladen mit Gold und Silber.
Something I've never experienced before. It really isn't. Pleasure step.
No, thank you. 编的东西很有趣。
身材保养，
对，
年纪老公的钱比较大。
不知道，很难讲，很难讲。这个吧，冰淇淋，冰淇淋，冰水，猪头，我已经照了。
Oh my God! Of course you have to.
Kiss it.
Give him a kiss.
Kiss it. Kiss. Kiss.
Okay.
Kiss.
This way.
Okay. 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 Hey.
Big one. Peruvian ice cream.
Oh, thank you.
You know, you have a lot of time to shop in Cuzco, so don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
Lots of time to shop. You don't want to try the Peruvian ice cream? Really good. Good job. This way, this way.
Cultural Center. What's the train station before?
Oui, tout ça.
Sombrilla para la cartera, para el bolsillo, lleve la sombrilla.
They're actually practicing. What do you expect? Yo no vengo acá, voy a hacer el control. Sí, y el mismo que la están viendo ahí.
不错，有棕榈树，有棕榈树，这边不错。Say hi, baby. 这是古迹耶，下面是什么？是不是 Inca 的 Empire？ 是不是？你看，
对，
是不是 Inca 的东西啊？来，
对对对，
啊 ，Oops。哇，下面的古迹嘞！哇，这个水流得很急耶！啊，水很急的样子耶。
哇，这水坝吧？上面有水坝。
对，是水坝啦，一节一节的啦，一级一级的。 是不是？对，以前的旧的 building 了，是吧？所以不见得是什么，只是很老的就是了，老城的，对不对？老城的。
And there was a raid in snow, if I recall well, in 1998.
Andrew.
Here's Korean.
Guys.
Presentations here on terms.
Cassie. Jeff.
Memories of the trip.
You're going to be on the next ad.
That's right.
It's a mess.
Que vaya.
Okay. We're starting.
Looking at you. Maple super.
哎，你的干贝比较多。
我帮你换。
一样。蛋饺。
Their visitors to enter the deposit. Larco Museum is one of them. In here we have approximately 20,000, 25,000 pieces, mostly ceramics. Larco Museum is a very well-rounded collection with ceramics, textiles, ceremonial vestments, adornments made out of different materials, such as gold, silver, copper, jewelry made out of gemstones, shells, and more. In the deposit we have mostly ceramics. Now here we can see ceramics from the northern coastal side of Peru. You can see the common topic, all faces of men. How we can tell, men is always wearing some sort of turban or headdress. Because in this civilization in particular, moche or mochica. Different investigators called it moche or mochica. When a man showed his hair loose, that was a sign of selection by gods for the sacrifice.
For the sacrifice.
Exactly. Yes, there will be a room in this museum that talks about human sacrifice ceremony. So we'll discuss more about this tradition, this ceremony, and what was the idea they had for this kind of tributes to gods. We can also see some curious vessels. Now pay attention to these three. If you like, get closer. Now when you look at these three vessels, you can tell by looking at the features like the brow, the nose, the chin, the lips, that is the same person as Asian. Exactly. Here in his late 20s, early 30s, here in his mid 40s, early 50s, and this one here in his 60s or 70s. Yeah, we can tell the pass of time on the face of this individual who was someone important in his society. We can tell by many aspects. For example, the fact that he was represented on art throughout his life, but also in the headdress. The headdress is not only to cover the hair of men, for them not to be sacrificed, but also to represent the social status of the individual. Now, when this person was young, his headdress has little to no decoration. When he was in his middle age, yeah, his headdress has decoration. This decoration is symbolic. Those 3 steps represent a fundamental concept of the indigenous religion. They believe the world is, or universe, is comprised by 3 different realms, what they called pachas. Hanan Pacha, Kai Pacha, Uku Pacha. Heaven, earth, and the underworld.
Oh, heaven, earth,
it's a fundamental concept in a myriad of different religions around the world,
3 steps,
including Peru. Concept of, like in Catholicism, the concept of the Trinity, God Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So it's the same here, but thousands of years before, yeah, the Catholicism was introduced here. The last vessel shows not symbols, but a personage. This personage, when you look at it, is a shark with human limbs, leg and arm. The shark is an apex predator. A predator which is commonly interpreted as an executioner. The executioners of these civilizations in rituals of sacrifice dressed up in ceremonial vestments with animal features. Some of these vestments were depicted features of felines like mountain lions or jaguars, some others sharks or snakes. Predators that participate in the sacrifice. So we can tell by this vessel here that this person was such a thing, an executioner.
Wow.
Someone that participated in this sacrifice. We can see his face, his status,
他是个 shark，
about his headdress.
是个 executioner。
Now all of these are pottery, ceramics, vessels used in rituals of offering and sacrifice. What's the difference? The sacrifice is commonly linked to a natural disaster. An offering is a tribute they pay in a regular cycle every time there is a transition. In the traditional calendar, it's all about the solstice. Winter solstice in June, summer solstice in December, here in the south hemisphere of the world. In the north, alpacas, llamas, guinea pig, or duck. If not enough, they sacrifice wild animals that they hunted down in ceremonies called, or the most common was the deer. And if it was not enough, they started the sacrifice of human beings. Blood from children, from babies, or from women. That's what they offered as the ultimate tribute. A little bit of everything we can see.
Almost there on butterscotch.
I love that bowl.
Oh yeah, they sell it in the gift shop.
Yeah, good. You are treating today, right?
Yeah. But it's my turn.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Check out
At this part of the deposits,
tins of that.
we can see one of the most interesting topics, which is medicine.
medicine.
Medicine, diseases, human conditions and syndromes that have been affecting the humankind for thousands of years that we may believe they are recent. Here we can see witch doctors or shamans treating people.
Shamans.
Over here we have 3 vessels depicting Siamese twins, cleft palate and lip, acne scars. Over here we can see some vessels depicted amputated limbs due to a stroke.
Yeah, right.
Stroke.
Scoliosis, dwarfism,
Strokes.
blindness,
Dwarfism. 还是侏儒症。
and not in this museum but I've seen in other collections
用陶瓷做出
ceremonial vessels
不一样的
depicting
病，
STDs like gonorrhea or syphilis, worms as well in the genital area.
How you found it? Is on the ground? Or where it was deposited before you found it?
That's a very good question. Over 90% of the archaeological artifacts exposed in museums like this one had been found within royal tombs.
Oh, royal tombs.
Now, Larco collection is according to the official statement from Larco family, 60% of it bought by the Larco people, the Larco family, from grave robbers and landlords like themselves that within their property found a temple, a citadel.
So this one does show where it's where you see, yep.
On this map, we can see the most accepted theory about the last great migration. Last ice age, approximately 10,000, 12,000 years ago. The Bering Strait was a bridge of ice that connected Asia and America. A lot of people, thousands of people on migration walked across the Bering Strait and started the occupation of these regions, including Peru. Now, on the same map, we can see a handful of civilizations: Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, China, Mesoamerica, and Peru. These are the 6 cradles of civilization. Only 6 regions in the world where complex societies emerged completely uninfluenced, independently. Peru is the latest addition on that list because before 1994, the oldest civilization of Peru was 1,500 years BC. And then Caral was discovered, and carbon tests were run, and they proved that Caral was at least 2,000 years older than the most ancient civilization discovered in Peru by 1994, making Peru one more of the cradles of civilization, with an average age of its complex societies of 5,500 years, 5,800 years, which is a time equivalent of Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, China, or Mesoamerica. But unlike the first 5, in Peru, none of these societies developed written language. So without a written register of their culture, history, or religion, we have no idea about these concepts in the beginning. Now we do, thanks to art. Instead of writing about religion, culture, or history, they crafted art. And through this artistic expression, we can have a very accurate idea of their beliefs, their concepts regarding religion, what they worshipped, and how they perform rituals and ceremonies. That's how I can tell you that for these societies, when a man showed his hair, was a sign of selection for gods. So, because there is art depicting this. For example, we can get a lot of information from a simple piece like this stone head. What we get from here, this is a shadow. In the old time of these societies, this tenon head is approximately 3,000 years old. At this moment in history, these societies believed that their shamans, through life experience, were the guardians of ancient knowledge. So most of these shamans were elders. We can see some elder person because of the wrinkles on his face. Now shamans in these rituals consumed drugs, hallucinogenic substances. The most common one was mescal, which is obtained from the sap of as a type of cactus. In Peru, in Central America they called it peyote. I think in North America as well. In South America we call it San Pedro, Saint Peter. Now, this is pure mescal, pure. The sap is collected from the cactus, then it's dried out, and then ground out. What looks like powder is actually tiny crystals of dilated. And not just that, but the pupil of sacred animals is dilated as well. Because in this society, they believe that these shamanic rituals involve the spiritual transformation. So the shaman becomes a sacred or mythological being, like this feline. In some cases, snakes. In other cases, birds. And that's what we can get from the interpretation of these 10 heads.
So
Questions, comments?
So this is not really a cat.
No, it's
It's
not.
just-
This one is a cat.
It is.
This one is not. This one is what we would call a chimera. Chimera is a mythological being, an animal whose body is comprised by the parts of other animals. The most famous chimera in popular culture, vultures, osprey, and hawks. For Earth, which is the goddess that rules the human world, we have jaguars and mountain lions.
Jaguar, mountain lion.
And for the ocean, which is the goddess that rules the underworld, we have snakes, spiders, and as we saw in the deposit, sharks as well. Then these animals are mixed up and they create these chimeras. We have a good example here in this vessel. You see a four-legged bird, like a griffin. But instead of lion and eagle, this griffin-like chimera is vulture, and jaguar.
How long years?
These artifacts, approximately 1,500 years BC.
BC. So 3,000 some years old. 3,000多年的，我们秦朝了。
Now there was a moment of
秦朝就2000
transition in
哦，
history
更早一点
in，which
商朝
shamans and social, spiritual leaders in the societies became demigods. When they started believing that these humans, these people, had a divine origin. So little by little, the principles and concepts of religion started to lead to that direction. When they started representing beings like this. Pancopampa stela is one of the earliest representation of a goddess. We know it's a goddess because the decoration or the details in between the legs resemble a vagina more than a penis. It's a human-like individual because it has arms and legs and legs, but it also has feline features in the face. It has like eyes and a big fang. There is a tongue that comes out of the mouth, but the tongue is a bifid one, like a snake. And along the body, the legs, there are 2 extra appendices that resemble wings. So on the body of this human-like personage, there are cat features, snake features, and bird features.
1,500 years ago?
1,500
BC?
1,500 years BC, approximately, 1,000, 1,500. Now, if you're struggling to see the details, in this drawing you can see better the details registered in this granite statue. Was thoroughly arranged within a deposit and stored there till it was necessary. When the ruler dies, these artifacts are placed within the royal tomb, and then the royal tomb is sealed. Unearthed thousands of years before. And of course there is a process of restoration and conservation. Now the glazing is the same glazing that they did hundreds or thousands of years ago. Close to the workshop, you would have a furnace, a kiln, a fire, with the clay and turn it into ceramic. Can you imagine how hot that workshop can be? The kiln or furnace can reach temperatures over 500, 600 degrees Celsius. So it's very hot. You're going to be sweating all the time. You will lose grease, fat. So they used a pebble stone or a polished piece of wood that they rub against their hair, nape, face, scalp, collecting that grease. and then the grease is rubbed against this.
他们这个博物馆是蛮单一的哈，就是他们的那种印加文化。
Whereas the one with Lima is representing more likely when it comes to women, Hagustas or queen will have the ceremony best distinct or sharp features. It varies depending Picture a ceremony in which she believes they are honoring a goddess. If it's done properly, you'll plunge with the hand in the sun. And someone drops the vessel. The pregnant twice. The whole goddess does not forget that. God will relate to that disrespect. So that's why the handle is necessary. And it's also a feature of the ceramic which is functional, because not in this case, but in the first galleries, it's not a flat handle, but a tube-like skull. So the water pours in, goes through this handle. And the south side, they crafted very intricate tunnels inside these vessels. So when they are tilted, the water over inside creates a sound. And they shape these vessels into the form of owls, foxes, parrots, and they mimic the sound made by these animals. Yeah, there are videos. Let me check for it. Yeah, I'll show you some of these videos. Another masterpiece of innovation here at the Larco Museum is this group of giant vessels, way larger than the ones we've seen so far. This kind of vessel is a sacrifice. I told you before, the sacrifice is a preparation or ceremonies. In summer solstice, December 23rd to 24th, they expect raids to happen. But if the raids are not happening for a week, they are not going to start killing children or women or warriors. They are going to start sacrifices involving local production. So they may destroy ceramics that were specifically crafted to be used in these rituals of sacrifice. Used once and then broken. Textiles torn apart. Ceremonial vessels smashed. Or crops that are burned. All of this symbolizes the sacrifice and precedes the offering of human blood. Animal blood as well. So a vessel like this is crafted for the winter solstice celebration, which is the beginning of the harvesting time. It takes weeks or even months to make one of these vessels because they didn't have potter wheel, making the crafting of a vessel this big even more challenging. Investing man hours, resources, material, all of these efforts. Because that's a sacrifice. And then if it's time to sacrifice before, they will receive the next sacrifice. Then wild animals, and finally Yeah, and bird-like wings along the legs. And so that is the universe of God. Because each one of these features, feline, snake, and bird, is representing one of the three realms: earth, underwater, and heaven, which comprise the universe. So the Paco Pampastilla is a universal God, or in that case, goddess. For other societies like the Incas, now the Incas worshipped mainly the sun, but there is the concept of the universal God, which is Viracocha. This fabric is feathers. These feathers are 1,000 years old, and the color is still very vivid. Found within a royal tomb. In the royal tomb, the material they used to mummify a dead ruler is mercury sulfide, cinnamon. Mercury sulfide kills everything: fungus, mold, insects, larvae of insects, rodents, anything that dares to enter in the royal tomb. Once it is sealed, is going to get killed by mercury sulfide, cinnamon. Another thing when it comes to these royal tombs, special showcase that has temperature and humidity control. That way it's preserved. It's maintained every other month.
There's English here.
Oh yeah, there is a
Cassie.
besides Spanish.
There's English here.
It's English and French. Later they added this explanation in other languages. Now what we have here is a shroud. This is not a cake or a carpet or rock. This is a shroud. This is what they use to mummify the body of a dead ruler. The making of this shroud with embroidery decorations might have taken at least 1 year. And a mummy is not wrapped by a single shroud. The average number of shrouds comprising a bundle, depending on the civilization, days of Peru. There is a similar ceremony celebrated in Cuzco called Takanaku. We are not killing anyone. The offering of human blood through a ritual combat is part of this tradition. Now, what we have here is the weaponry, which is wielded by this society, by these warriors. Yeah? The objective of the ritual combat is not the killing of the other combatant, but the selection. With these massive wooden clubs, they aimed for the head of the other combatant, trying to knock the helmet off of the head. Of course, someone might have died. Yeah, but it was not the objective. The objective was the knocking off of the helmet and leaving the hair of that combatant exposed. When exposed, the hair, society understood that the gods had Victor is still wearing his headdress, his ceremonial armor, and still wielding his shield and club. In the next vessel, the victor starts to tear apart the clothing of the vanquished warrior. And in the last vessel, you can see the victor still dressed up in the ceremonial vestment, has the vanquished warrior fully undressed with the hair loose and a rope around the neck. That is the process of preparation of the... And only one shows a whole sequence of the human sacrifice. It's a unique piece in this collection, and there is only one more in existence, no other. You can see all the details, the big and the underworld. The two realms that participate in this ritual are earth and heaven. Earth is here, heaven is above, and in between, a sacred animal. Yeah. Once again, a chimera, a snake body, feline head, and paw. In the lower body, the lower realm, the lower realm, we can see the vanquished warriors. kneel down before executioners. This executioner is a cat, it's a jaguar or a mountain lion, and this executioner here is a snake, a woman and a man. Then the blood that is collected from these sacrificed individuals is poured in this ceremonial vessel that has to be taken to heaven from earth. So they represented here bird warriors, the equivalent of angels, hundreds of years before the arrival of the Spaniards and Catholicism. And in heaven, we can see the trinity of sacred animals, the feline, the snake, and the bird, handing over to the universal deity the sacrificial blood in the ceremonial goblet. We can tell it is the universal deity because it has on his body or her body snakes, feline, and bird-like features, which is their creation. So that's how they represented this kind of ritual of sacrifice in ceramics, and it's a unique piece in this collection. And in that section, in those showcases, you can see the sacrificial tool, which is the ceremonial knife. The shining of gold is the one of the stars. So this is believed to be the offspring of the stars. And whoever shone like the stars from heaven was not a human being, but a demigod. A being whose origin was heaven and had a divine right to rule over the human being. So that was the actual significance of that divinity. From the technical point of view, metallurgy has been developed in Peru ever since 1000 years BC. They used different material and different techniques to work with metal. The three main minerals: silver, gold, and copper.
Silver, gold, and
lamination
copper.
as the fundamental technique
Silver, gold,
to
and
work
copper.
with this material, and then different techniques of decoration like represent, upper work, hammering, and stamping as well. Plus different techniques of joint, including staples, needles, and even welding. Please come over. Is the lost wax technique. A technique they used to craft small figurines, but they are very well detailed. They used beeswax, that is mold, shaped, carved, to extreme detail, and then it's put in a ceramic mold with clay in it. They leave an outlet to pour in the metal, the molten metal. When the molten metal enters in contact with the beeswax mold, it burns it off and occupies all the space, including details, all the different dents, curves, grooves of the little figurine in metal. In this case, a whistle in the shape of a musician. Or over here, some other whistles in the shape of seashells.
Oh, whistle.
Strong's
This is whistle.
sea snail shell.
So whistle. So shape of
This is the actual
seashell.
shell, and this is a ceramic, and the little ones are whistles,
Whistles.
made out of metal in the
This is
shape of
whistles.
seashells. These are funerary offerings, sets of miniatures. This is not the crown of dwarf or goblin leather. It's just a funerary offering, a miniature ceremonial investment, including crown, earrings, chest plates, and the poncho. In the other showcase, we can see another miniature set. In this case, it's mostly ceremonial articles, vessels, and all these miniature sets found as funerary offerings within bodies. And the next one is a revelation. Within this showcase, there is body goes to the mom. Is decorated with a baby cat, a death mask, a crown in this case, and the crown that was once decorated with feathers, and with that there is a wig made out of real hair. This garden has been tested only by a child, being around 4 or 5 years old, and most likely slowly could have been hydrocephalus because the shape and size of the head does not correspond with the one of a 4 or 5 years old boy or girl. Yes, it has not been found. It was X-rayed, which is the only one studied on this body. Over here you can see a photo of the X-ray. The light is shining is the body. The other child is the child. That is the appreciated skull. In India, in Egypt, in Mesoamerica, and also in Peru, ancestors of the modern societies deformed, intentionally deformed the skulls of their future rulers, either flat or etc. And over here we have ear-lock stretchers. And these are not the largest. Over there you can see some of the largest in gold. Because of the deformation of the head.
This ear ornament, because there you can see the waves. The waves, because...
So these people at that point in history had not mastered techniques like lamination or decoration. So what we have here in the chest plate, for example, is just a piece of metal that was cut in a specific shape. But that's it. No further decoration. There is no repousse, there is no hammering, there is no mold, nothing. You have to be used to decorate it. These ceramic vessels are 2,000 years apart. The ones are 1,000 years. These vessels are around 500 years old.
Where is the leather?
So the lines of snakes are considered more sacred. Because there were also demigods shown. And the last masterpiece of the Larco collection is over here, the ceremonial vestment of the executioner.
That's the equivalent to Pinocchio.
Yeah.
These ornaments have relation with the other. We can see the ear ornaments that is snakes.
And the other hand is holding the round plate of wood in which is collected the blood that is withdrawn from sacrifices. And then in the shoulder back you have the final part of the ritual sacrifice, which is the executioner holding right here the two hands of the judges and the sacrifice. So it has the tools and it has the result of their ritual sacrifice. Hence, the person that wore this was the executioner involved in the sacrifice.
These are all South American, right?
Yes.
Okay.
男的女的，男的女的。
Okay.
这是挖掘的地方。
Which is a concept of the origin of life, labor, story, and here we different civilizations. Mythology.
Here we have this reproduction of a tomb because we need context of the rock pieces. You can see
We have similar concepts even though not context.
我知嗰啲嗰啲形狀你係似好似你外星人。
以前就係外星人嘅世界，應該。
The most important duality in the nature is that me and the thing we got procreate and